and many thanks for joining us on the program. My name is Felicity Ezewuike. In the course of our series, in commemoration of the International Day for Universal Access to Information on September 28, we have attempted to review the accessibility of publicly held information to Nigerians, how this has impacted on governance and the role of the media. My guest then was Mr. Edith Ojo, the Executive Director at Media Rights Agenda. Today, we will continue that conversation, but we'll be focusing generally on the fight for justice and how access to information enhances that. We all know that access to justice is an essential instrument for the protection of human rights, and it is only when an individual has access to the courts that his fundamental rights can be enforced. What role has access to information played, and how can it be improved upon? My guest today is the Deputy Director and Head Freedom of Information Unit at the Federal Ministry of Justice, Abuja, Nigeria, Ichibor Gowon Joseph. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Thank you for having me, Felicity. I need to correct, I'm not the Executive Director, I'm actually a Deputy Director in the Federal Ministry of Justice.
Okay. My apologies. I think I actually had it there. I don't know how I could as an executive. All right, thank you very much for that correction and for joining us. I'll start with how I started with Mr. Edith. I'd just like to know what's your assessment of the journey with our FOI Act? How has freedom of information been in Nigeria?
Well, in the course of celebrating the International Access to Information Day for tomorrow, I must confess that after some 266 years of the access to information globally, that some 11 years back we were able to enact our law, and the results have been positive. We, at the level of speaking from the demand perspective, I must confess that we've really done a lot. Like the Act rightly provides for, it says that is a law established to provide for more access to information. Like I always mention the fact that even before the enactment of the law, sometime in 2011, we had access to information. But what the Act has come to do is to make these things more accessible. And on the part of the government, like I said, we've been on top of our game, releasing the ones the Act provides that we let go. And those classes of information that the law provides are not for public consumption. What we've done is to clearly explain to the applicants of the fact that the law provides that this class of information are not releasable. So on our part, we'll be on top of it. On the part of the supply side, which are the demand, the applicants and the requesters, I must confess that we've collectively as the people, we've done the best we could to make sure that this law achieves its very best. And also commend the intention of the legislators on the enactment of the law.
Would you say this is replicated across board with federal government institutions when it comes to, the efforts to improve access to information like you have at the Ministry of Justice?
Law, you recall that freedom of records and information of our constitutional agenda. Basically, what that speaks to is the fact that states and the National Assembly have the same powers to enact law on records and information. As we speak, we have just a few states that have enacted their law, but in line with the doctrine of covering the federal and international law, states that refuse to enact their law, naturally, we come under the cover of the federal law. So as we speak, I can vouch for, say, a number of states. We talk of Imo, Lagos, Ekiti, and a few others, whom I can confidently tell you here on top of their game, because what they have as laws are basically what they've adopted from the federal law. So as we speak, I can vouch that they're on top of their game.
Has there been, from your years in the field, would you say there has been an impact of the FOI Act on the pursuit of justice in Nigeria?
Yeah. Basically, if you look at the provisions of the law, what the law has done is to re-emphasize the relevance of the Evidence Act, i.e. the fact that you can access information using the instrumentality of the law. Like I said, as of the 28th day of 27th day of May 2011, if you had requested information from the Ministry of Justice, you'll be requesting information more or less like a favor. I might choose to give you or not to give you. But from the 28th day, it became as of right. If you request information, the law provides that you can compel me to release. And when it comes to litigation, naturally, materials that you might need for your litigation process, you can use the FOI to access them, pursuant to your filing, whichever documents you need to file in court. So basically, your access to this information in line with pursuing your cases are a plus, an improvement on our judicial system, especially our litigation system.
I'm actually very glad to hear that. I want to go back to something you said about applicants, those that are applying to get FOI. How would you access citizens' use of the availability of FOI Act to enhance the pursuit of justice? Would you say there is a steady uptick in application for FOI, or there is a decline, or it's just there? What would be your take on it?
As of 2012, when we had the first year of assessing ourselves, how far we've gone, you may need to recall that Section 29 of the Foreign Information Act confers on the Attorney General the powers to oversee or oversight the implementation of the law. What we've done here is to do an M&E on ourselves, which gives us the platform to know where we are. If you look at our reports, which are on the website, from 2012, when we did our first M&E by way of report to the National Assembly, you see from there to 2021, the last year we submitted a report, you see a gradual improvement. We then had 12 institutions that had complied with the provisions of the law. What is this compliance? Basically, the law provides that you honor before the first day of February each year, do a compliance report informing the Attorney General of what you've done in the course of implementing the law in your institution. So, like I said, as of 2012, we had just 12 institutions complying with these provisions. The truth is, I won't call it bad because the act was just 6 months old. But as we graduated, as I speak to you now, we had 119 for last year. So you can see the growth. The AG has been top of it. What we've done, the lacunas of, will I be right to call it lacuna? Some aspect of the law that we felt might need further interpretation, what we did was to develop and issue a guideline which has assisted public institutions for effective implementation. We had two series of guidelines. The first one was actually issued in 2013, 2 years after the act was enacted. When we discovered that we still had some challenges in implementation, especially from the demand line, we went further to revise same guideline, and we now have the operational guideline that's been there since 2014, which I must confess has guided the effective implementation of the law and the improvement that I said we're witnessing now.
What you're saying just gives me a lot of hope because my previous conversations on the access to information has been a worry over the utilization of the act by citizens, not just in Nigeria alone, but across Africa. So it's good to know that there is an uptick on the use of the act. How about on governance? How has the combined access to information and justice played a role?
Access to information basically forms the cornerstone to which any government can rely on. What are the templates of an access to information enactment? It basically provides for transparency, accountability, and inclusiveness. If you are able to access information that determines the day-to-day conduct of your governance, the government in place, you are able to participate in governance. So what is governance? Basically, the act and processes via which a government governs its people. And how do you relate to governance if you don't have access to information? And I must celebrate the fact that this administration has been fair in terms of its proactive disclosure obligations. Recall that the law under Section 2 provides that you don't just wait for applicants to request information. It provides that you should proactively disclose information as listed under Section 2. And if you go to Section 2 of the Act, it actually identifies some 40 items, record information that the Act should proactively disclose, even in the absence of a formal request or application. So whether you like it or not, taking into cognizance our past experience, if you look at, is it the Ebola I'm going to look at? Is it the COVID? The proactiveness of government pursuant to the provisions of the Act has has been that factor that led to our success in dealing with these pandemics.
Mr. Joseph, I mean, one thing is to say the government is working to ensure that there is access to information. This information that people request for and get, how has that enhanced, accountability in government, improved the quality of governance that we have? What would be your honest assessment of its impact on governance, the combined access to information and the pursuit of justice?
Felicity, as I speak to you now, I just released, the Attorney General just gave his consent, his approval for the release of the MOU we signed with the British government on the refund of 4.2 billion Ibori, what's it called? Collection in, I don't want to call it loot, Ibori's collection in the UK. We've had NGOs that want to work relates with the conditions of that MOU. Now, if you, like I said, we've given this MOU out. If you go through the provisions of this MOU, it gives you the right, the natural ability to monitor the provisions under the MOU. What does that lead to? Good governance. You can hold the persons involved accountable because the MOU has disclosed or specified the items that this funds will be used for.
Okay, okay. Let's take it another step and look at it from a different angle. I understand your hesitancy. Is there any specific instance that comes to mind where the FOI Act has expedited access to justice? Can you think of something, big or small, that you think because people were able to access information, justice was served and quickly too?
I just pray you are not trying to narrow what justice amounts to. Justice is conformity with the law.
Okay.
Especially if the end product is going to be trust and fairness. We've seen situations in the course of, I've been in this space for 12 years. We've seen situations in the course of our implementation of this law where litigants, like I said, are able to access information leading to the ability to file processes, leading to the ability to pursue their cases. I probably might not be able to itemize this thing in the form you want, because one, again, I was not informed as to what I was going to speak to. I wish I had the prior knowledge, I would have this thing identified or itemized.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph, so far. But beyond access to justice, there are many obstacles plaguing Nigeria's justice space. When we come back from this very short break, we're going to go on. We'll look at that and the role, if any, that FOI Act can play. Don't go away. Good to know you're still with us. We've not bored you off yet. We're still talking about access to information ahead of the international commemoration. Mr. Joseph is still with me. I will start by asking, because what I promoted about before we went on that break was some of the obstacles to accessing justice in Nigeria. Mr. Joseph, what would be some of the, let's say, top 3 or top 5 obstacles to accessing justice in Nigeria, in your opinion?
Wow, it's basically as from my own context. One, like I said, I'll be looking at it from the public space, not from the private space.
Okay, go ahead.
Naturally, because I'm seeing it from the public space, there's certain challenges that we will avail a man who is seeking justice here. Firstly, has to do with the judicial system itself, the cost implication of assessing justice, and the bureaucracy in the justice process.
Okay, how do we begin to improve on that? How do you think the FOI Act may better improve, for instance, the cost of assessing justice in Nigeria and the time, really, that it takes for justice to come?
With due respect, we've had improvements since the year 2015 when the Administration of Criminal Justice Act was passed. which gave room for criminal justice, spiritual of criminal justice, eradicated this issue of matter starting de novo. But we had some challenges with the, what's his name, Kalu's case, the former Abia State governor. You recall the Administration of Criminal Justice Act provides that when a matter is at any point the judge is elevated, such a judge can return back to the earlier courts to deliver judgment. But we saw the technicality held by the Supreme Court in the Kalu's case. As we pursue justice, there's always a price to pay. And we just pray that as we go on, we keep improving on this.
Okay, let's see. For the common man who is seeking justice, there seems to be some sort of hesitancy stemming from the high cost of litigation that you highlighted. What's your thinking on how this can be better addressed? You said there's been an improvement, in recent years, but can this be made even better?
We've actually gone some, sorry, let me not look as if I'm over celebrating the government. We've actually gone some steps further. It's just unfortunate that some members of the public are not in the know as to how much or how far government has gone. The legal aid council, which would happen to be a parastatal under the office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, is actually there for the less privileged. They do your cases, they do your cases free of charge, pro bono. Like I said, it's unfortunate that most citizens don't know of the existence of these agencies, so are not able to access these agencies to seek redress. We have lawyers across the 36 states of federation, offices of the Legal Aid Council that provides legal service for free. And the Ministry of Justice also exists at 6 zonal offices. We have 6 zonal offices across the federation where you could go and get legal service for free.
So what would be your advice to improving awareness among citizens? Because one thing is to know that there is a law that empowers you to seek information from public institutions. The other is to use it and be sure that you will get the response that will help you in your quest for justice. So what advice would you give on increasing awareness among citizens?
Yeah, that's been a challenge. Actually, I've had this conversation with the fact that we have a law that actually provides for or confines on the Attorney General the powers to oversee or oversight implementation within or by public institutions. Yet these powers under the law is to ensure that public institutions comply with provisions of the Act. What do I mean? Is to say as a Christian, I'm prepared if you knock on my door by asking, prepare me to release. But it did not empower the Attorney General to go to the streets and knock the doors, using Wuse Market as a case study, for the AG to go to Wuse Market and start telling people about the existence of the Act. Rather, it provides for the AG, ensuring that all public institutions to which the Act applies must be ready whenever a request comes. So you can see the challenge. So when I have engagement with my brothers on the demand side, the civil societies and the NGOs, I always encourage that they play that part of sensitizing Nigerians, the citizens on the street. And the unique part of the Nigerian Freedom of Information Act is the fact that it doesn't provide for citizens. It says anybody born of a woman. If you look at other laws, they tell you citizens of their various countries. But we have a unique law that says anybody meaning anybody of the citizens of the world. So I always encourage or enjoin NGOs to play that part while the Attorney General plays the part of ensuring that public institutions to which the Act applies comply with the provision by getting themselves ready to respond when requests do come in.
Let's talk about the instances where justice is denied as a result of technicalities. We've had several cases. There were 2 prominent cases last year that got a lot of people talking. And where I'm coming with this is there a way you think that the FOI Act can help to tackle this repetitive use of technicality to obstruct the quest for justice?
Wow, well, let me take it the way you've taken it. Technically, basically forms part of the legal profession. Yeah, I'm not trying to tie emotions or self-belief to the professions. There are certain rules and regulations that you're expected to follow, in as much as I don't support the use. But they form part of our judicial system. So lawyers are expected to up their games to avoid this. But to say, yeah, what role would the Freedom of Information Act provide? Yeah, it makes records available. If you're going to draw a process based on the fact that you've not seen the records, the law provides that some of these records should be in public space, and ignorance of the law is not an excuse. A record that is already in public space, you can't come before the court to use that guide to say you are not in receipt or you've not been served. A document that's in public domain is you are duty bound to take notice of short documents. But like I said at the beginning, technicality forms part and parcel of our litigation process or judicial process.
Okay, let's go out of the box now and just bank on your response on, based off all your years in the field. In an ideal scenario, what would be a better utilization of the FOI Act in trying to access justice in Nigeria? What role do you think it can play to keep our legal system in check? Just, in an ideal situation, we don't have one, but let's think in that way.
The only ideal state, I think she's in heaven when I get there. But
Okay.
it's true, but there are many improvements that we're actually looking at an amendment to the law, basically an amendment to the law in the sense that, like the Indian law, we're looking at situations where access to information that has to do with one's right to life timeline should be reduced, because what we'll have here now provides for 7 days, which the guideline has graduated to 7 working days. But if you see other enactments around the world, you see situations where record information that will affect or determine your fate as a human being are reduced to within 24 hours. As here, we're looking at improving, but again, like I said at the beginning, we're unique people. So let's take our uniqueness to cognizance in whatever you do. The things that could successfully operate out there that will not operate because of our uniqueness. So if we looking at the way forward or moving forward, we're looking at the possibility of having some of these possible changes that will make it better for what it was designed meant to achieve. Reducing timelines.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I was trying to finish your thoughts, sir.
We also look at the provisions of exceptions, but the provisions of the classification of records and information that are not for public consumption. We could look at how best we could classify them, taking public interest into cognizance in defining them.
Okay, before we go on another break, I want to go back to the comment you made about bureaucracy as one of the obstacles that still comes up when it comes to quest for justice. And it struck me because in recent weeks, I've been making attempts to get to public institutions and get them to send a representative. And I had to go through a whole lot I have to write a letter. It will get to the office of this person, and then this person will minute on it, and then it will go to the next person. I know it seems unrelated, but how do you think we have technology, and everywhere it's touted as it has made life a lot easier? Why do you think that technology has not been fully implemented in our justice system to take away some of this bureaucracy? I mean, emails can get you started, but here you have to write a letter physically and take to an office.
The truth is, thank God you're back to my page. Naturally, the way the system works, you need the authority of the superior to attend to issues that come before. Mindful of the fact that we all agree that the head of an institution should always be, or our laws provide that is the minister. So when you need to relate with issues concerning the ministry, naturally you go through the minister. But I don't know of the other institutions you said you
I specifically went to the Ministry of Justice, actually, and I thought I was talking and everything was going well. And then they said, you need to write formally. I said, no problem. Give me an email so I can shoot you send you one soon. And I was told that I needed to write a letter, take it physically to their office, and then the process will start. And they are not even guaranteeing me that I was going to get a response until maybe a fortnight or 3 weeks away. So I'm asking, in an age of technology, where technology has made the world a small village, how can we utilize that to reduce the bureaucracy that we find in our quest to access justice in Nigeria?
I'm quite sure that you were not the person that actually had a one-on-one with your second person narrative. Somebody did tell you what he or she went through at the level of the Ministry of Justice.
No, I actually did. It's not somebody's experience, it's mine.
In truth, to share you, like I said, I've been in the FOIA space for, say now, 11 years. I receive requests, applications via mail. So does that speak to you? I receive applications via mail. The judicial system, the court system has improved. I guess you know what we call front loading. Basically, where you don't physically present your processes, pleadings before the court, you can front load. Those are the plus of technology, what technology has brought to the court system. So, like I said, we receive email, but it's just that you would need to be guided on how such emails should be routed.
True, that was what I wanted. But I just told you that story on the side. So basically what I'm trying to get from you is your suggestion, maybe how we can improve, reduce the bureaucratic levels that you need to go through to get things done in our justice system.
We're moving. I hope we'll get there, but we're not there yet. Like I said, I don't do too loyally.
Okay.
You discover that e-evidence is acceptable before a court. And I guess you know that. Mm-hmm. Unlike in the past where you have to present physical documents for before they are admissible. Now you can e-element electronic documents for criminal trials. You could do e-confession. They are accepted at the level of the police stations. These are effects of technology on the system. So whether we like it or not, we are moving. Whether the pace we're moving is the pace you admire, you want to praise, that's where the challenge is.
Well, at least we're moving. That's the most important thing. Like you said, we're moving. I mean, it's commendable what happened during COVID-19. Virtual meetings, virtual court hearings happened, but we don't know the sustainability of that, if it's still on. All right, how do we chart a new course in the quest for the promotion and protection of human rights in Nigeria through enhanced access to justice? That will be our focus after this very short break. I'll see you in a bit. Good to know you're still with us. Thank you for staying this far. Talking about charting a better course for our quest for justice. Let me stay with the bureaucracy a little longer. Would it be a good idea, Mr. Joseph, to break down the responsibilities, the issues that needs to be addressed, have specific courts that deal with them? Maybe that will be one way to expedite the course of action, don't you think?
We presently, sorry I didn't mention it earlier on, that in the last 5 years we've actually had the Secretariat of Justice Reform at the level of the Ministry of Justice. Basically, it's a body comprising of CJs of the various states, with the Commission of Justice of the various states, with the Attorney General as the head, with the Secretariat at the level of the Ministry of Justice. The main platform of the justice reform is this guy to see how best it can reform. I guess the word reform would best suits our conversation for this evening. How best they can reform the justice system. Mindful of the fact that when we talk of reforming the justice system, the executive arm will run a federal system, not just a federal system, a system that provides for separation of powers. There's a limit to which the executive arm can barge into the judiciary. Let's be mindful of that. What we're doing at this end is to see how the executive elements of the judicial process can be improved while engaging the judiciary to tackle its own end of the.
Challenges. Okay. I just want to hear your thoughts. So I'll still go ahead and ask you. And that would be, what would be your thinking as a layman watching cases in court? If you go, like a court reporter goes to the court and you see a judge busy scribbling away, trying to catch up with what is being said. Is there a way that that process can be digitized so that the judges focus on listening to the meat of the cases that's before them than be laboring away writing? Is there a way to digitize this so it will be easier on the judges?
I must confess something. I like the word you use, the layman. In the last 10 years in the FCT, there are 2 recorders in each court. Most often, what you see the judge do is to take cognizance of some important points that he or she wants to record. You have recorders that the judge are privy to, and what they even do is that what they do, they transmit those audios into black and white. You have recorders in all the courts that the judges are privy to, having to listen to at the end of each court session. So it's not as if they don't provide for recorders, but it's just that, you know, do I use the layman's language? In what you will say, what you are born with is difficult, make you let them go. So try as much as, but even if you are recording, even if you have recorded in front of them, we still choose to inscribe 1 or 2 things that they think they want to take home, take back into chambers with them.
Okay, let's mellow it down and just ask you, how would we rather chart a better course in the fight for justice and good governance in Nigeria?
Basically, one word: let Nigerians know their rights. It's one. The day you know your rights is that day you begin to know whether your right is infringed upon. We have people walking the street that don't even know their rights. So when you talk of justice, some persons don't even know what justice stands for, because sorry to use the word, there's a way your life journey drives you to a point where you can't even tell your left from your right. If we're able to establish the fact or make Nigerians know their rights, it will help the judicial process and our quest to seek justice in Nigeria.
Now, you've said it in a different way, but just to be clear, what would be some of the ways that the FOI Act can better, improve this quest for justice?
Wow, I did mention at the beginning that some 260 years ago, Sweden enacted its first FOIA. Sweden was actually the first nation on earth that enacted its FOIA law in 1766. As we speak, 123 countries are here. Correct, have the FOIA law. Why am I speaking to this? I'm speaking to this because I guess you are aware of the fact that if you Google now, you check the least corrupt nations on earth, you discover that the least corrupt nations on earth, 9 of the 10 countries there, are the first 10 nations that enacted the FOIA law. Does that speak to itself? That access to information, whether you like it or not, when you know your rights, naturally, it enables you to seek justice. When you know this amount is budgeted for this road, naturally, when you see a substandard road, you know this is not the sum that was budgeted for it. So what else is justice? I'm talking to practical justice.
In what ways will these improved access enhance human rights protection in the country? Because once you know your rights and you use them, just give us an idea, some of the gains that we will have from, utilizing all the information that is before us.
I didn't get that, ma.
Okay, so I'm trying to ask you how we can in what ways will these knowledge improve access to justice, really? Just paint us a picture, what we stand to gain from using the Act.
I try, if you've noticed, I try as much as possible to be as practical as possible. The use of the Act, like I said at the beginning, has improved us a lot. What do I mean improve us? My mother selling akara in Kubwa now can easily seek information about what government is doing. Okay, there's a video I'll send to you after this program where we had communities in Zamfara who were privy to the state government's appropriation of funds, the budget, and with the help of some NGOs, they were able to draw me to the contractors that they know the cost, they know the extent of the work that was expected to be done, and they were able to achieve that result. What else is practical? So it really that has done. And I always tell anybody, sorry I'm deviating, that outside the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Freedom of Information Act is the second most important document, because Section 39 of the Constitution provides for expression of your right to express your opinion and co. How do you express your opinion? Provisions are not made, procedures are not provided for. What the law has done was to provide, lay a template how you can use the provisions of Section 39 and 38 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that is the dividend we're seeing in practical terms now. Everybody can ask questions. Like I said, on a daily basis, the Office of the Attorney General Ministry of Justice receives an average of 20 requests for information from Nigerians. I want to imagine before the act whether we're receiving such, but I was not on the desk then. But just telling you what we are going through now, that we always, and we have to be on top of our game. If not, we'll be sorry for ourselves.
You said this. How did these people get this information? Have you probed to see maybe how did they get to know these rights and were able to pursue it? What are some of the mechanisms that was employed, if you know, that can be replicated across the board to get to people in the rural settings?
What we've done, it was what the ministry did then was to work with the media right agenda basically on the budgetary process, basically to allow the people know their budgets, what to them, how to ensure that they get the best from what were budgeted for them. So I must confess that we had NGOs that I did mention the fact that the demand side was the non-governmental organizations that had to drive that process of informing the citizens that you have this contract have been awarded for your community within the context of this budget. What is your own rights now? It's your obligation or your responsibility to ensure that whoever is coming here as contractor, you make the person know that you are aware of the extent to which and the cost implication of that contract. It's not enough for such a man to go visit your king and drop some bottles of wine and they laugh out and then you're in your same state.
What would be the place of leadership in all of this? I ask because Nigeria in a short while will be going to the polls to pick new president, new vice president, new National Assembly members. All of this come together, to improve access to information. We need good leadership. What is the priority Nigerians should place on leadership if we are to go forward with improving access to information?
Leadership. That's a big word. Within the Nigerian context, I don't know. Do we have that word, leadership? Again, like I said, we're living in a global state where we see what happens across the world, where we see what good governance has done to improve the life of the citizens. And we, like a Christian, I always pray, maybe because I'm supposed to be a leader. I'm a leader within the context of my organization. I pray I'm doing what's right. But like I said, when I'm throwing it to prayers to say, Felicity, as you mentioned, we pray that we're able to elect men that will not only give us the best, that will be there to see that our children get the best as they grow up. I want to use the word. I also pray that when we get there, we'll do the right thing. I must confess, I'm short of words. I don't know what's the right thing, but I pray that God gives us the wisdom and the grace to do the right thing when it comes 2023.
Not to sound like a pessimist, but we have to know what the right thing is before we can pray for grace, don't you think? We need the grace to do the right thing. You have to know the right thing first. Okay, finally, before I let you go, you are with the Ministry of Justice. In what other ways do you think the ministry can further the cause of improving access to information?
Like I said, we've even gone beyond the mandate given to the ministry, rather given to the Nigerian by the Act. What we've done in the last 6 years, to be precise, from 2016, was to say we've gone to the point of acting as ombudsman for requesters or applicants whose applications were neither not responded to or were wrongly dealt with. What we do, we serve as the middleman, because if you look at the provisions of our law is a two-way, provides for a two-way traffic. What do I mean by two-way traffic? It says if you are denied a request or if is of Section 7, you should approach the courts. Mindful of the fact that our court system here, what we've discussed at the beginning, it's long, not just long, it's expensive. What we thought it was to now say we could act as a bridge between the requester and the public institution. And successfully we've done this. What have we done? We ensure we serve as that template or a spring via which the requester will return back to the what's called the public institution by explaining to the public institution that relate to this requester. What he or she is requesting for comes within the ambit of those kinds of information that the law says you can release. And if you choose not to release, you should use the instrumentality of the FOIA Act, which provides that if you're not releasing information for a requester, you must furnish such a requester with cogent reasons why you are not releasing. These reasons are basically reasons that must be found or identified within the context of the law, which are provided or captured under the Act.
I said finally, but there's one more. Ahead of the commemoration tomorrow, what would be your message to people who had units like yours across Nigeria? What would be something you want them to do better with the commemoration?
I actually will not let the cat out of the bag. We're having a family engagement tomorrow. I called it family. I'm having an engagement with the minister, with all desk officers of public institutions, FOIA desk officers. So tomorrow, in line with the team of the International Day for Access to Information, we're trying to see how best we can take advantage of artificial intelligence, e-governance, in bettering access to information. Like I said, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. Tomorrow we'll be there. We have a family meeting tomorrow. I'm not using your platform as an advert. We've sent out letters. Yeah. If you choose to be part of it, we are invited.
We certainly would love to. We've been on this subject for weeks now, so I'm sure we'll be very happy. We have a team in Abuja across Nigeria, so I'm sure we'll be very glad to get to you. You could share that information with us. Thank you very much, Mr. Ichibor Gowon Joseph, for speaking with us today.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
You too, sir. He is with the Federal Ministry of Justice in Abuja, Nigeria. He heads the Freedom of Information Unit there, and he's taking time out to speak to us on the work that they're doing, how we can better improve access to information across Nigeria. Bottom line, most of the guests that I've had on this show, and I've listened to them, is there is one thing to have a law. There is another thing for the citizens to use it. If we don't use the laws that are available that will help us enforce our fundamental human rights, then we're not furthering the cause of justice. So the onus lies on you and I to use the laws that are available to help in our quest for justice. It improves every aspect of our lives. Thank you very much. As always, I appreciate your time with us here on One Slot. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.